Okay, hello, happy Friday, and welcome to day 5 of Death Journaling in Real Life. It's so lovely to see all your names and faces here, and hello to people catching us on Facebook. This will be recorded and then shared out later because I know quite a few people can't make it, but they would like to be able to check in later. So I'm going to continue to let people in, and today is a solo session. Let me know in the chat, have you been able to attend any of the other sessions this week? I've had some amazing guests, some of my dear friends in death care who have been here and who I've had wonderful conversations with. So let me know in the chat if you have been able to tune in at all. I've had a wonderful time. My official book launch date is tomorrow for my new book, which is The Death Doula's Guide to Living Fully and Dying Prepared. So July 1st is the big day. Some people who have pre-ordered the book have been able to receive them early, which I love. Actually, at first, I have to tell you, at first, I hadn't even received my author copies, and people were starting to send me photos that they had gotten their copies. And I was a little jealous, I have to say. And then I quickly got over it, and because they were so happy to be holding it in their hands, and I was so happy to see those photos and get those text messages and emails. So it is circulating, which is exciting. And tomorrow will be the official release date. So that means anybody who has pre-ordered the audiobook, which they're having a great special on, or the ebook will be delivered to people starting tomorrow. And I know that it's been sort of trickling into mailboxes, this actual physical copy of the workbook as well. So I'm going to check in here. I'm going to pop back and forth between the chat. Thank you for the congratulations. So some people are tuning in for the first time, and some people have been able to catch a couple. So welcome either way. It's lovely to have you. And and people are ordering the book. So before I forget, because I have a couple things on my to-do list to remember, a couple things. Remind me to give away the book bundle. Don't let me end this session without giving it away. So make sure if I'm losing sight of that, or if I'm starting to say goodbye and I haven't done it, just remind me, give me a nudge. And what was the other thing I wanted to mention? The other thing I wanted to mention is if you have ordered a book or you're planning to today, then make sure to grab the thank you bundle, which is amazing. So I've gathered together gifts from people in the field who I really respect and admire, and whose voices I think are very unique, but all together in unison, we're working toward a very similar goal. And so I have 10 gifts, they're digital gifts, and you can find them on my website. And so my website is francescalynnarnoldy.com. You can look it up, it's really easy to find. And then right on my homepage, you'll see a link to the pre-order campaign, and you can just click that. And then you submit a little bit of information, basically like where you bought the book and your name and your email address. And then I will be sending those out. I send them out myself every couple of days with a message and all the links to the goodies, which are just super fun, and I love them. And people have been saying that it's been great to have those to hold them over until the book comes out. So that is only available until tomorrow. I'm going to be shutting down the thank you bundle campaign. So make sure you enter your name so that you don't miss out on that. All right. So today, our topic is preparing to use some of this content in situations where you are presenting, you're speaking, or you're working one-on-one or with small groups, because this is something that I have a lot of experience with, and I've learned a lot because I have done things well and I've learned in that way, and then I've done things not so well and I've learned from that way. So I want to share that with you, because I know that together, when we put our voices together and when we speak from this place of a mission of compassionate care for as many people as we can reach, especially in terms of end-of-life care and grief, then together we can really ripple out and make a difference. I personally love to create content I think I'm what people call a creative. My mind is very noisy with ideas a lot of the time. And when I can sit down and focus and sort of get them out, it's something that I have a real passion for. So just to tell you a little bit about me, I started in this line of work back in 2017, but prior to that, in 2009, I became a birth and postpartum doula and a childbirth educator. So I've worked at both bookends of life, and I really find that work to be incredibly meaningful and actually similar in a lot of ways. We are holding space for these journeys in life that are like no other. And they're very mysterious in a lot of ways, which I really respect. That even though science can give us so much information, which is really helpful, and medicine can give us so much information, there is so much that we can't know and we can't fully expect going in. And so that makes it very challenging and very rich to be a part of. It's an incredible honor. And each process will unfold uniquely, depending on the person experiencing it, depending on the people surrounding that person, depending on their needs, wishes, and hopes, and also depending on the circumstances that have to do with their health condition and how that's changing, and how we can address their comfort and help to alleviate any suffering that anybody might be experiencing. So that's my true passion. I've been at this for a while. Back in 2018, we launched the first course that I created the end of life doula training programs at the University of Vermont, and those have been going strong ever since. So there's a 8-week course for people who are interested in supporting people, and then another course for people who are interested in supporting the loss of a companion animal and that journey, because it's a little different and sort of deserves some extra special attention in that regard. So I've done that. I've also done a bunch of conferences all over, virtual and in person. I do a lot of workshops. So I don't mind giving talks, I'll say, but I much prefer holding workshops. I like for it to be interactive. I like to get feedback. I like to split the group up. I like to give them time in pairs. I like to have people reflect back to all of us. It just makes it so much more meaningful, and I continue to learn every time I offer a workshop to people. So that's my preference. I do a lot of workshops online and in person. I teach as part of the Art of Dying Institute. They have a thanatology program, which is really wonderful. I highly recommend it. I teach alongside some wonderful people in the field who are medical care providers, who are in spiritual care, who are mental health therapists, a huge array, a licensed funeral director, death midwife, myself, just so many different people coming at this work from so many different angles. So that's a really wonderful program if you're interested in checking one out. I run a 6-hour interactive live virtual workshop for them called Cultivating the Doula Heart, which I just absolutely love. And they gather up a wonderful community of people that work through all of those sections together. So all of this to say, I have had quite a bit of experience speaking in front of people, talking about this work that means so much to me. I would love to hear from you, just so that it's not all about me. What kind of experience have you had? Have you had any experience with giving talks, workshops, conferences, any sort of community education? I try to do a lot of community education locally here, whether it's at my library or we have an adult education program. I've done some offerings through them. I've done some at assisted living homes or independent living homes or community centers. So what kind of experience, if any, do you have in this field and with sharing your voice? And how has it felt to you? Because I will admit that although I think it's incredibly vital, it's not easy. And I have worked hard to find confidence to be able to continue to do this work because it's worth it. Because it's worth it, even though I'm nervous, even though I know things aren't going to go exactly how I'm hoping or exactly what I'm planning for, it's still worth it. I have been thrown sometimes by questions that people have asked in the crowd. This could be, sometimes it's people who are just purely curious. And I think to myself, oh, that never crossed my mind. And I am completely unprepared to answer this question. Or sometimes it feels a little more like, oh, I think that this person maybe has an opinion and is sort of pushing an opinion here, and it could be controversial. And I want to be really mindful about staying neutral and calm and centered and grounded. But it has thrown me sometimes. And so I have developed some practices that seem to work pretty well for me so that I can continue to do this because it means so much to me. And I want to share some of them with you so that you can go out and do this as well. I also want to let you know that all of the content that I have created, I want for it to be used. I don't want it to just sit on a shelf. I don't want it to just be read in private. I want it to be used as much as possible. And I remember it was a couple of years ago now. I'm not sure if anybody here was part of this, but there was a group of UVM graduates who gave a talk, I believe it was at their local library, about doula work, about the role of doulas. And I was able to watch the recording of it, and it was fabulous. And what they did was they took my first book, which is Cultivating the Doula Heart, which is a short, concise doula guidebook. And they used this as the foundation of their talk. And I was thrilled to see it get put to use like that. And like I said, I'm a person who loves to create content. Not everybody else is. So if you find things in my books, in my publications, in my blogs, whatever, please put them to use. But you will need to put your own spin on it. It will have your voice behind it and your goals that you're trying to reach for the group. So just off the bat, I want to hear from you. What kind of questions do you have about speaking, about community education, about promoting death literacy, end of life care? What sort of questions do you have on your mind, or what sort of goals are you maybe holding right now for yourself? What are you hoping to be able to do moving forward? And how might I be able to help you reach your goals? So put this in the chat. I would love to hear. And to give you an extra incentive, the giveaway for the books will come from people who are posting in the chat. So a little extra nudge there. So let me know what's on your mind in terms of speaking. And this could be one-on-one work, small group, or a large group. So let me know what you think in the chat. Would love to get some thoughts and questions going in there. All right. Marketing my business. Yes, thank you, Debbie, for bringing that up. That's huge. And that is often an intention that people are holding as they're thinking about needing to start with community education. So when we become end-of-life care providers, when we become death doulas, there are a lot of people that don't necessarily know who we are and what we're offering. So we have to teach about it. We have to share about it. And what I have found is that to make a talk really successful in terms of the audience's perspective is to make sure that you have some takeaways. Make sure you have something that's very valuable that the people who are attending can accomplish and take with them. So it can't just be that you are excited to share about your work, which you will be, absolutely, and people will love to hear that, no doubt. But it can't just be, here's who I am and hire me. It really goes better, I have found in my experience, when I offer something interactive and there's something where we're starting here, we're ending here, and they feel a sense of accomplishment by the end of the workshop and our time together. So for example, one of my workshops that I give and I have been giving for many years now is called Working Through Wishes. And it's really supporting people as they begin to think about end of life care, and they begin to think about the atmosphere, the who, what, where, not when, why, how questions to do with their wishes. And I think about this a lot as a doula because my goals are always planning, preparing, and processing. And that goes for beginning of life, so birth work, and end of life as well. And through that journey, we can really discover, for the client, they can discover who they really are, their inner workings. their values, their priorities, their anxieties, their questions, their doubts, whatever they're holding. All of that will tend to rise to the surface naturally as we guide them through those questions. So that's one idea, is taking this guidebook, and in the last section, so there are lots of different sections in here, you could guide people through drafting their wishes for care. Now, you might not get through all of these because there are a lot of prompts, but you might pick out a couple and start there. You also have to think about your audience. Who is this group, and how comfortable are they going to be with the topic? So those of us who are actively working in death care, who are hospice volunteers, hospice care providers, palliative care, death doulas, educators, grief therapists, all of us in community, we tend to communicate about loss and death and mortality and grief a lot more often than other people. And we can lose sight of that. So when you're going to stand up in front of a group, it's really important to keep that front and center in your mind and to lead with that. You can't just jump in at the level that you would, as I am here with you, as you would with another death care colleague in the field. It's not going to work. It's going to be too much. It's going to be overwhelming for people. So you have to really ease in. It's so important. And you have to set the space and set some intentions going in. So acknowledging, saying something like, greetings, welcome, here's what you can expect from our time together. Really helpful for people to feel oriented. And then say, I recognize that everybody here is showing up at a different place, a different level of comfort with this topic, with your own mortality, and also that people are carrying with them stories of loss, experiences of grief. Some of these might be very fresh. They might feel very raw. Some of these might be older, but they actually might kind of come back as we're talking about this. So I want to recognize that and really welcome whatever your experience is. It's all welcome here. And to let people know to do what they need to do to feel comfortable. So I always tell people, it will not bother me. It will not distract me if you need to stand up, if you need to move your body, if you need to do some pacing, if you need to take a break, if you need to go get a tissue, if you need to cry. All of those things are completely fine and totally welcome here. And that way people feel like they can be themselves and they can do what they need to do as we're working through this. It tends to just sort of lower their defenses, open them up to the experience more. And they know that they have this source of support that's going to see them through however this goes. So depending on the crowd, jumping right into end of life wishes might even be too much. So there are other parts of this book that I have created that have to do with my own death journal, which some of you might be familiar with, as I've been talking about death journaling in this book, but it was my original inspiration for the book. And my death journal is something I've been creating for many years for my loved ones. They know where it lives and they know about its purpose. They know it's for my time of dying, whether that is expected and they're able to go get my death journal and look for tips and approaches that might be applicable to me in my care. Or if my death is sudden and unexpected, they can go to my death journal during their time of grief. They can hear my voice, they can receive my messages, they can feel my love, even in my absence. So there's quite a bit in here in the new book that I have pulled from my own death journal. And it's much, much more about who I am and my own voice and my essence and how I've lived and my messages that I would want for them to hear. So it's much more about life even than death. So that's another angle that you can consider. Because even when we're talking about mortality and the end of life, someone's final breath is one moment, and it is a really profound moment. But the main focus is really living up till that very last moment. So that's the main focus of the book as well, in terms of all the preparation. Okay, I'm going to go back to the chat for a minute because I saw a lot of people adding things, which is lovely. Okay, wanting to start speaking at colleges. Wonderful. When we can reach younger audiences, I just love that. It's so important. So thank you for doing that. Ooh, a soul cafe. Love the sound of that. Okay, great. So, and some people will have book clubs, or with these types of regular meetups, they might have a certain book that the group is reading and working through together, which is a wonderful idea. So we have a retired RN. Thank you so much, Essie, for your work in the field. Finding new ways to talk to my family. Yes. So even people in our personal lives. So I'm just going to pause here to address that for a minute, Heidi. Thank you for sharing it. And it's so valuable to have these conversations, and it's not always easy, and people aren't always open. And sometimes I hear from people, they'll say, well, I want to know what my uncle, my aunt, my parents, my grandparents, what they would want for their care. Maybe they're very closed to having that conversation. They're not willing to talk about it. We can't force anybody into this, of course, but what I have found to be a helpful approach in that situation is do your own work and then ask if you can talk to them about the work you've done. So you can say to them, I've been thinking about my own mortality because you never know. And I've been trying to get my affairs in order, or I've been doing some death journaling. And I'm really hoping that I could share some of this with you. Are you open to hearing about what I've been working on? And that can feel, it can feel like a more gentle side door into the conversation. And then you put the focus on you, not on them, and you share about the process, about what you've come up with, about your wishes. And it at least plants some seeds for that person to start thinking about their own wishes. So just keep that in mind. If you're feeling resistance about having those conversations, just those gentle openers and keeping the focus on you, at least to start. Sometimes that can help. Okay. How do you find locations? Great question. Yeah, so assisted living facilities, retirement communities, those can be a great spot. I have locally here out of the high school, we have adult education. It's called Access. And I assume that a lot of other communities probably have that as well. So I've done classes for them. There is, I think it's called OLLI. I can't remember what it stands for. I see some head nodding, so other people know about it. Maybe it's older learning. I don't know what it is, but it's meant for adult education, and it's out of the University of Vermont. So I've given some talks for OLLI as well. So check your local universities. They might also have community education, and pitch them some ideas. And if you give them some definitive topics, not just like, I'm a doula looking for work kind of thing, because it really needs to have those valuable takeaways for the crowd. So come up with a couple of topics that you feel comfortable covering and then pitch those ideas. You could try that. Also, I've done some groups and talks at local places of worship. And you need to obviously be very sensitive to belief systems, of course, and that's our stance as death doulas. And so we always leave lots of space for people to customize these approaches so that they are in alignment with their belief system, whatever that might be. Okay, hospice experience, grief support, students, great. A monthly grief session. Thank you for doing that. It's wonderful. Death Cafe in Jericho. I didn't know that existed. Wonderful. And another death cafe in Minneapolis. Love it. Okay. Blog and monthly virtual conversations and crafts. Oh, I love crafting. Love that. That sounds amazing. Oh, 2 card decks to release. Very interesting. Keep us posted on all. That sounds lovely. I love decks. I have a couple of them. I have a grief deck that's really beautiful. I have the death deck. I have a couple one from it's not 5 Wishes, but Go Wish, and another one by funeral directors. So I think that they're a great, like I said, like a gentle side door. Those are great because it's reminiscent of time when you're a kid and you're playing card games. It just doesn't feel that intimidating. It feels a little more lighthearted, and still you're getting into some deep conversation topics. So that sounds like a wonderful idea. Okay, yeah. And so for Linda, your brother going through the dying process, my heart goes out to you. Oh, making a grandpa loves his granddaughter book. That's beautiful. Love that. I mean, it's just so many layers there of the benefit of reminiscing, thinking back on all those memories, going to take that walk down memory lane, and then that it will become this remembrance keepsake for his granddaughter is just such a beautiful gift. All right, thank you all for those comments. So let me check, and for all the work that you're doing and that you're intending to do, it's so important. It's so needed. So I'm gonna check through. Okay, something else that I wanted to mention is to make sure that you're appealing to different learning styles. I'm not modeling that all that well right at this moment, but I do try to be mindful of that in general. So my usual MO is I will create slides. And that's for a couple of reasons. It's to appeal to visual learners, and people do tend to appreciate being able to look and sort of see what I'm talking about in addition to hearing what I'm talking about. So, and also the second added value for me is that when I come up with a talk or workshop, I don't have a script. So like, I mean, this might be embarrassing to some people, but I'm fine with it because this is my process. But for us today, this is what I have. I have this array of sort of messy notes. Now, if I'm doing a paid talk and it's for an hour and a half, it'll be neater and I'll probably have it a little more organized. But in general, my process that I have come to lean on is I will have a structure, I'll have sort of a skeleton, if you will. And from there, I will fill it in. And I trust that I will be able to pull together examples, words, stories, messages to be able to convey my main topics. And so when I have slides, I have it organized. I know I'm going to start at point A and then end up here. And then in between, here's what we're going to cover. So that is nice for visual learners, and it's nice for me in my process. It sort of keeps me on track. When I'm giving a workshop, like for example, I gave a 4-hour workshop on story listening for grief in Vegas at the End of Life Symposium there by City of Hope. Now I had 4 hours, so it was a really lengthy workshop. And I knew that I needed to keep myself on track in terms of my pacing. So even though I didn't have a strict script that I was following, I knew I needed to be at a certain point by a certain time so I wouldn't get really behind. So I would add those to some of my slides. And I often, for me, printing off my slides with the note view. So if you select that and print, then it makes your slide really small at the top of the page and it leaves blank space underneath. So that's where I write my notes and the other things that I'm going to add in. I sometimes will also include video clips in those slides and or audio clips because that also appeals to different learning styles in a different way. And then hearing from the crowd is really important to change it up. If it's just you talking the entire time, it can get a little hard to maintain attention for everyone. So I wanted to make sure I covered that as well. All right, checking back in the chat. End of life values and wishes. That's great. At a library. Wonderful. Retreat center. I'm holding a retreat in Portugal. And so that'll be a different sort of experience for me in terms of holding space and guiding people through a process. So it's planned for October 31st for 5 nights, 6 days in the south of Portugal in Monchique, this beautiful place that I can't wait to visit. I've been to Portugal, the country, but not to the south yet. And so I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a very immersive experience in death journaling for people. And together we're going to build community and really kind of go deep and also experience the culture around us, which is going to be just amazing. So I actually do have a couple of spots remaining, but not many for that. If anybody's interested, I'm holding info sessions. So definitely reach out. And my motto for that is we are traveling alone together. And it's going to be quite the adventure. All right. Grief movement, guided labyrinth walk meditations. Love it. Sound baths, laughter yoga. Wonderful healing practices, Eileen. Thank you. Yeah, and the fear of public speaking is real. It is legit and it is really common. I have found that for me to shift in and to sort of inhabit the mindset and the sort of energetic presence that I need, I have to mindfully do that. I can't just like, I've had a busy morning and I just rush in and show up and I bring all that with me. That makes me even more nervous and kind of on edge and antsy. So what I do and what I found to be really helpful is before I visit a client, before I give a talk, I will take a pause, and it can be a quick 1-minute pause. And I will find my breath, and then I will imagine reaching up as high as I can into wherever, beyond what I could imagine. And then reaching down as low as I can, beyond whatever I could imagine, and finding myself in the center of those two spaces. And then I bring my energy in. And so I mindfully bring my energy in from top to bottom, from front to back, and from side to side. And so that creates kind of an energetic bubble around me where I'm feeling like I'm pulling it in, I'm grounding, I'm centering. And then I'll usually repeat some sort of mantra that feels calming to me to promote my trust in what I'm about to enter into. So something like, whatever happens is meant to happen. Whoever arrives is meant to be here. Whatever messages they're meant to hear, may I speak them and reflect them back. Something like that, whatever comes to mind, whatever feels natural in that moment. And I find my breath and I really try to find my trust. That helps me stay calm and focused in those moments. So you might try something like that of shifting in. And then I have found that it's equally important to shift back out when I'm going back into the real world, back into my normal day to day. I have to sort of shift out of that headspace because sometimes I'm like, ooh, like I'm just there, I'm in it. And then I've got to like go drive my car. And so it's a different mindset. All right, so last question to the crowd. Anybody else have tips to share in terms of what you do if you're going to be doing some public speaking or when you're about to go visit a client? Any helpful tips? And then I'm going to pick our winner of the book. And also any last questions, anything that I didn't cover here that you were hoping to hear that would be helpful as you move forward. Okay, practicing. Yes, Miranda, practicing the speech or public speaking on a kind-hearted listener. That's a wonderful idea, for sure. Sometimes even recording yourself can be helpful. I took a public speaking class in college, and it was very painfully illuminating. It really shows you your speech patterns. If you have a tendency to say or ah or like a lot, those can become very distracting to a crowd, and you begin to hyper focus on those things. So if you can take a recording of yourself, take an honest look at it, and then sort of work on some of that, it can also help. It just helps make your message come through more clearly. Ask spirit in and to help guide my thoughts, words. Yes, so you don't feel alone. Beautiful. And yes, Heidi, you can definitely watch all the events from the week. They've been so fun. They are on my website. So let me just quickly grab that link for you. I have already posted the other 4 videos, and then I will be posting this one, and I'll be sort of cleaning up the web page as well. So there is the link. Setting the chi field. Yeah, great. All right, set an intention. Yes, love it. Okay, write out talking points with written reminders to pause and breathe. Yeah, sometimes we kind of like get going And then we were just going, and it can be hard for other people to keep up because we've got these thoughts, and you have to remember that other people might be hearing these things for the first time. So they also need some integration space as well. You can't just keep throwing stuff at them. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing these tips. We all learn from each other. So I'm going to give away my book bundle, and I'm so appreciative of you showing up, some of you in the middle of the day, some of you in the morning, depending on what coast you're on or what country you're coming in from. So I have a book bundle. This is for someone from the US, so I'll make sure that you're in the US because international shipping is really tricky. So this includes Cultivating the Doula Heart, and it includes Map of Memory Lane, my picture book, and it includes my shiny new book, The Death Doula's Guide to Living Fully and Dying Prepared. Now, if you already have these books, then thank you so much for your support, and please pass them along to someone who doesn't, or donate them to a local library or hospice house or wherever you feel like they will be received with appreciation. So what I'm thinking is within the chat, I love the participation. I'm going to pick a number. And so the number that comes to mind for me is the number 7. And that is because tomorrow is July 1st, and it's my official book birthday. So, and also my birthday is in the month of July. So I'm going to look back and see who posted the 7th comment. Essie. Yay! Congratulations. 1, 2,
Thank
3.
you. Oh my God, I'm excited.
Yes,
I need those.
just can-
I need them badly, and I would, buy them also and refer other people.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure
Oh,
you will spread the word, and I'm thrilled to share them with you. So, Essie, if you can, just make sure either through the chat or through my email, I will need your mailing address.
Okay.
All right.
Wow.
And you can find, there's a contact me form in my website too. So whatever works best for you, just let me know your mailing address. And thank you all, the rest of you, for sharing, for your presence, for your support. This has been a really fun, really exciting week for me. I can't believe that tomorrow is actually July 1st. I can't believe it's here. And I just have so much love for this community. So thank you. Really appreciate it. And take good care of yourselves.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday. Mine's the 12th.
Mine's the 19th. But I do like to call it my birthday month. My loved ones know.
Yeah.
I claim the month. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Francesca. It was great.
So much.
Lovely to hear. Thank you for coming.